Hi, I'm Philip Marsh, Managing Director of Mentoring for Success. I'd like to invite you into our exciting and important world of knowledge mentoring. Come with me. In this video, I'd like to take you through the very important aspect of nation building with regards to mentoring in an academic environment. But first, before we get started, it's important to understand that there are differences between the academic and corporate worlds. In both areas, job security can hamper knowledge sharing quite significantly, as well as transformational and other personal agendas may collide significantly. Performance management should avoid classic performance measurement only restrictions and should be carefully integrated and aligned to development in a nurturing space. Poor selection and pairing or forced marriages can destroy young academic careers. Inflexible processes will attract negative forces which will have no fingerprints and will simply come to a standstill. And then specific to the academic environment, academia worldwide and historically has always been an area of activism, and this may compete with the conversations and the nature of the relationships. There are always politically volatile spaces, and this will bring in different stresses potentially between the older, more senior academics and the younger, aspirant, emerging academics. Another big difference is that fun and the concept of gamification in learning and experiential learning is not as well accepted in academia as it is in the corporate environment. It's a far more serious place to be. And finally, important to understand that academic staff and the support and administrative staff have very different mentoring and knowledge sharing needs. I'd also like to take you through some important observations. Firstly, if we look at the Cynefin model of Professor David Snowden and the levels of complexity theory, a university and an academic institution is very much in the controlled and complicated space. And if we compare this with the levels of work and the work done by Elliot Jacques in his stratified systems theory, once again you'll find that an academic environment, in my view, really only gets up to level 3, possibly level 4 of the SST. And this presents, in a way, an academic dichotomy, because academia is about literary reviews, it's about research methodologies, it's about attention to absolute academic rigor, it's about publishing, it's about compliance, it's about ratings, it's about ethics. And yet at the same time, in the dichotomy, academics are intensely independent. They need high levels of personal autonomy. They need a high degree of flexibility and self-selection in the way they go about things. And it's a serious space. So you can see from this academic dichotomy and these strategic domain constructs that any attempt to introduce effective mentoring into an academic environment needs to be very carefully considered, as the often required freedom, fun and flexibility which one can design into and facilitate in a mentoring program in a corporate environment is often met with high degrees of skepticism in an academic environment. Hence, a co-developed solution with a senior academic from within the institution who is passionate about mentoring is, in my view, a critical success factor. Some important questions need to be answered, therefore, right at the outset. So if you are in charge of a college or you are a mentoring champion, it would be in your best interest to really go through these questions in some detail. Firstly, at the highest, is there guidance or direction from some form of institutional strategy document? In other words, is there a people development strategy, a knowledge management strategy, possibly an integrated talent management strategy, performance management, skills, transformation, sustainability, or succession strategies, which will guide the mentoring process? Next, are the objectives and outcomes of mentoring or knowledge sharing very clear and explicit in the organizer or the institution? Does mentoring have executive support and buy-in? And this is an important question. We're talking at the level of chancellery, we're talking at the level of college deanery, the school directors, the human resource directors, and also importantly, organised labour. Should there be a formal mentoring code of conduct or some kind of mentoring charter or mentoring declaration? Is the level of required formality and structure clearly understood and supported by all? Is the mentoring process expected to be confidential or collaborative? Is it simply one-on-one, or does it include some small focus group interaction? Can the potential mentors pool include recently retired or even contracted academics? Are mentors and mentees volunteers or under instruction? And how do you manage uncommitted and disengaged participants? What happens to mentors or mentees who are orphaned due to career moves or other institutional changes during the course of the program and their relationship? What duration of program is actually preferred? What level of monitoring and feedback reporting is actually appropriate? Is there a designated university or college mentoring champion? Do they have the dean's support? Do they have the respect of the academics? Are they effective as administrators and managers? How will success be measured? Are incentives appropriate for validated institutional mentoring success? And finally, will there be a celebration of success? Will there be some formalized reward and recognition process? So what I'd like to do is actually discuss a couple of the key mentoring objectives and benefits. These are typical focus areas and outcomes that you can expect from a mentoring program in academia. We see them as improving the following: research and publishing outputs, tuition or teaching and learning related skills, completion of academic studies, masters and doctorates, generally just academic excellence, improving the level of excellence amongst increasingly diverse staff profiles, improving academic profiles of senior, young and emerging academics, excellence in academic supervision and academic student support. Continuing with objectives and benefits, it could just be improving personal and/or life skills development, improving the use and application of internal systems and technology-enhanced teaching methods, improving potential inter-college or interdisciplinary collaboration and communication, improving performance management systems and all the related KPIs and performance targets that go with these, improving academic support of the administration staff and their related needs, improving other college or school-specific developmental objectives, and finally, improving fast-tracking of high-potential young academics and even integrating non-academics from the corporate world into academia. When embarking upon a mentoring program in academia, one needs to bear in mind the differences between academic staff requirements and support staff requirements. And you can tailor multiple solutions using various different techniques. I'd like to take you through some of the ones that we've used over the last 10 years in 5 of South Africa's top academic institutions. The first is obviously short courses, half-day type training courses on particular mentoring skills and relationship building. And then you can get into more intense 1-day, 2-day and even 3-day type boot camp training courses where more detailed breakdowns into learning objectives, mentoring specifics, and possibly some of the tools and techniques which I'll cover shortly. You can have informal programs where the partnerships are really left up to their own device, limited amount of reporting and administrative backup, and in fact limited support. You can have peer-to-peer programs where academics of similar rank, be they senior academics, young academics, or even emerging academics, collaborate together and hold each other accountable for the achievement of some sort of academic goals and objectives. You can then have the flexi-structured mentoring program, which starts the beginning of the more formal program types, and it has limited monitoring, limited feedback and reporting, limited administration, but it provides at least a framework for mentoring partnerships to participate in and work towards some form of common objectives. Moving into slightly more formality, you can have a semi-structured mentoring program, which obviously by implication has slightly more administration, a little bit more monitoring, some more reporting, possibly some clearly and commonly agreed academic objectives and metrics, but once again is not a rigid structure. And then obviously you get the fully structured mentoring program very often, which is used as a means of identifying high potentials, promotion possibilities, succession planning, and these are obviously tied more to careful metrics, monitoring of progress and report. There's generally a proper awards and celebration function towards the end of it, possibly the production of a yearbook to celebrate and commemorate the achievement of significant knowledge sharing during the course of the program. And then there are other types of programs. We call them blended collaboration programs, and this is where multimodality learning is used in the mentoring process. Possibly some pre-course preparation and research work is needed, a variety of forums and facilitated training sessions, and then some downloadable videos and downloadable assessments, and possibly a group collaboration space is used. And then finally, there's the professional registration support type programs. And this is where young academics are wanting to not only further their academic careers, but also wanting to achieve professional registration in their chosen discipline. This could be accountants, engineers, that sort of thing, and they're needing some kind of formalized mentored support in order to achieve the professional registration requirements of their particular institution. So what I'd like to do is really just talk a little bit about what are we trying to achieve, what is the purpose and the approach in various types of mentoring, whichever methodology that we're using. And essentially for me, it works in two areas. One is the horizontal axis, which is relationship mentoring. And the other part is the vertical axis, which is the collaborative mentoring space. And we need to be able to combine these. And this is where the question that we asked earlier, is mentoring highly confidential or is it collaborative in nature in an academic environment? So looking firstly at the relationship mentoring, one of the areas that a mentor needs to look at is the coaching. It's the confidential space, it's the coaching space, it's teaching reflection, self-inquiry, self-correction, in fact self-regeneration, and the mentor plays the vital role of a change agent for the mentee. But the other side of it on the personal and relationship side is, does the mentee require specific individualized training, be it life skills right up to advanced academic technology support, and is looking at what the individual requires as opposed to the mentoring group. But then on the other, the y-axis or the vertical axis, is this important part around building experiential wisdom through group participation. And this is collaborative mentoring, and it's an important space. And so whether in a flexi-structured, semi-structured or fully structured environment, it's important that collaborative groups are established who discuss and share ideas, stories, lessons learned about very specific focus areas in academia. One of the ways we like to do this is the use of tools. So in our Mentoring for Success toolkit, we have a vast array of tools that we have developed, and I'd like to take you through a few of the core tools. The first one is what we call the 6 roles of the mentor. This is an opportunity for the mentor to really wear different hats and have different conversations with the mentee. And they can go around using combinations of these different roles. They don't have to use all 6, they choose the ones that are appropriate for the discussion topic at the time. But what is important is to change the nature of the conversation away from pure research-based academic conversations onto other areas that build a well-rounded, holistic young academic. Another tool we find very useful is the 6 sources of learning. And this is essentially where we choose different varieties of learning and different sources of where learning can be found, be it from the classical classroom right up to people and benchmarks and the learning materials and the experiential learning of collaborating with others. This is a different conversation once again, and it provides the mentor with the ability to guide the mentee to fun and new areas of acquiring experience, knowledge, skills, and relationships. Another tool we find very useful is the retrospective analysis. And this is essentially developing a lessons learned repository of important events and projects or situations that have occurred in an academic calendar, either recently or in the distant past. And there's always deep and rich learning available from these. And the retrospective analysis allows mentors and mentees to investigate and analyze a situation and drill down into it and extract from that high degrees of contextual wisdom and understanding. And finally, a last tool that I want to introduce under the core tools is what we call the knowledge mapping technique. And this is to stimulate a variety of learning styles, the 4 major learning styles, by providing the rich graphical learning with the sort of research-based read-write type learning, with the kinesthetic learning of being involved and drawing pictures and engagement, and obviously the high degrees of visual stimulation. And there are nice drawing techniques, and this is a lot of fun where mentees participate with mentors, discussing subjects and drawing pictures with rich graphics, with metaphors, with analogies, with colors and contrasts, different arrows, different priorities, and this embeds multimodality learning in the mentees' long-term memories. Okay, I'd also like to just briefly introduce you to the advanced tools, and the first one being expert profiling, which is an extremely useful tool for young academics to profile older academics, and academics at the top of their game, and just get some insight into the characteristics of what makes up a top academic. Another useful tool is actually going into more detail in learning styles and drilling down into the understanding between mentor and mentee, what their particular learning styles are and how they need to adjust their conversations and their learning in order to really optimize the learning for the mentee. Another very useful tool is discussing generational theory in more detail, and with the imminent arrival of the nexters or the Z generation and the final bowing out of the silent generation, this is a very, very important tool for mentors and mentees, specifically in collaborative groups to work, especially in multicultural groups and multi-gender groups, to understand the possibly and very often the unintentional stresses that are involved in multi-generational groups. The SCARF model and work done by Dr. David Rock in his excellent book Quiet Leadership is an acronym for 5 social domains that, if the mentor and mentee work on these, will change the way they manage themselves in stressful and tough environments and how they handle themselves under pressure with others, and it really liberates one to be one's best self. We also have a tool. We use the discovery profiling tool, measuring behavioral styles, and there's a whole variety of things you can do with this. We have a simple report that comes out of a short questionnaire, and the report is used by mentors and mentees to get to understand each other and build a relationship very quickly at the beginning. Another very useful tool for mentors is what we call intentional storytelling, and this particular tool is used to take an event or a situation that has occurred in academia and discuss it in such a way to a group of mentees that rich transfer of contextual understanding is available. And there's a modality and a methodology that we teach with this, which goes far beyond just looking at the teaching and learning and research-based conversations that very often are what the mentees are used to having, and it takes them into the real world and things what happen when things go wrong. Another very useful tool or concept over here is looking at what is the goal of mentoring in academia. And this is not dissimilar to what we would look for in the corporate world. It's typically looking at what type of academic skills and abilities are we trying to develop, what type of academic knowledge and know-how are we trying to acquire, what are the appropriate academic behaviors, values and attitudes that we need to develop in young mentees, what sort of academic experiences and lessons are appropriate to be transferred, shared and diagnosed. And then finally, what kind of professional and academic relationships and networks are the mentees needing to develop. And if we do this effectively through collaborative mentoring and nurturing relationship-based mentoring, and mentees are allowed to listen and to participate and to study and to train and observe, they will develop into these high-performance wheels, these high-performance young mentees. They're able to do critical thinking. They're aware of the sources of best practice. They become confident and capable young academics. They can do more in terms of what they're supposed to do, but they can also show others. They can teach their colleagues in the peer-to-peer mentoring. They can correct their colleagues and themselves. They can even improve systems, processes, research methodologies as they go along. And they've developed a substantial knowledge network of useful academics along the way. And essentially what we're doing is we're driving them away from a content-driven approach into a rich context-driven approach of knowledge and wisdom. And this takes them into a capability space.
I would like to share with you a nugget of wisdom from Professor Narendra Bajnath, formerly the Pro-Vice Chancellor at the University of South Africa and now the CEO at the Council on Higher Education. Whilst launching a multi-college flexi-structured mentoring program at the University of South Africa in 2015 and addressing 7 of the college deans and a large group of senior academics, he had the following to say: "The aim of good mentoring in our academic institutions is not just about achieving academic goals and competencies. It is, in my view, also about just helping to crack the organizational code and showing others how things really get done around here." In conclusion then, I'd like to share with you the words of the great African revolutionary and theoretician Amilcar Cabral, who said, "Let all those who know a little more teach those who know a little less. We must learn from like, learn among our own people, learn from books and the experience of others, but always learn." I hope this introduction and overview of mentoring in an academic environment has been of interest and use to you. If we can be of any further assistance, please do not hesitate to contact us at any of the following contact points. Thank you.